With video game storytelling, old adventure games like Day of the Tentacle or Secret of Monkey Island told stories not too out of place if they were on film or on the TV screen. The adventure genre took a bit of a backseat in popularity for a decade or two, but saw a bit of a resurgence thanks to games by companies like Quantic Dream and Telltale Games. But unlike the puzzle-filled point-and-click adventures that began on PC, the revival of the adventure genre started to feel more cinematic, and more often based around making key dialogue choices that could alter the course of the story or force you to battle your own conscience. Last Stop falls into what I feel is the most recent evolution of the adventure genre, falling somewhere between the Telltale Games adventure, indie games like What Remains of Edith Finch or Gone Home, and a modern television series.
Previously on Last Stop.
I played through the game since it was added to Xbox Game Pass, and I'm always a sucker for a good adventure title. Without spoiling too much, I'm going to talk about what I thought of it. I won't give away too many plot details, but Last Stop finds you in control of 4 characters across 3 separate storylines, each with 6 individual chapters. It takes place in London, where a mysterious green portal appears underground. You can tackle each of the 3 storylines in any order before moving on to the next set of chapters, but it makes no real difference unless you are drawn to one thread over another. After completing all 18 individual chapters, the story culminates into a climactic final chapter. There are small background nods to other chapters and characters when you are playing through them, but as expected, the connections become more major eventually until the stories finally converge. Thematically, the stories themselves touch on some familiar though entertaining tropes and put you in the front seat of it all, but the overarching connection of the stories that surround the plot as a whole leans more towards an exciting movie plot than some deep thematic commentary piece on anything, and that's okay. I liked all 3 storylines, and they each took an approach that makes them feel quite different from each other, and the conflicts each of the main protagonists face varied. The 2 things I really like about the storytelling is the attention to detail and the clear understanding of how to tell a story at a pace similar to a piece of film or a TV show. Similar to their previous game Virginia, which I picked up on sale for $2 mainly for its homages to Twin Peaks, Variable State certainly knows how to cut a scene early and transition in artful ways that make it feel cinematic, sure, but more importantly, pace itself more in line with other forms of media that we consume, without a lot of dull downtime that sometimes comes with gaming. Not only is there great care to establish the setting, the Easter eggs to the other storylines in the background, and lots of care and detail in the world they crafted despite the stylized look, the characters were written and performed in a very believable way. Even if the plot didn't hit as high of peaks as it could have, I wasn't distracted by unrealistic dialogue or out of left field turns for the characters, not to say that there weren't some nice plot twists or revelations along the way. Dialogue often becomes the driving force of the gameplay in modern adventure tales, but in Last Stop, unfortunately your choices don't actually matter to how the story plays out. But unlike something like Telltale's Walking Dead series, where the split-second decision-making for hard choices pretty much is the gameplay, this is more about choosing your own narrative instead of choosing your own adventure, since the path is linear. Despite my choices not having much agency, I don't know if I really minded that, because it really just let you choose how the conversations would flow, and I think that's mostly due to the performances being so subtle and realistic. There was also a good mix of humor and some very meta moments that really worked well given the way the story went. Though I never felt that the dialogue chosen was presented poorly, the game did make some of the same mistakes that other games with dialogue systems make, where you choose intended dialogue that didn't quite play out exactly how you meant. Similar to Mass Effect, the selections more represent what the protagonists are thinking rather than what they are going to say when you press the button. One thing I can most definitely praise is the presentation. The art style was distinct and somewhat simple and understated, but the volumetric lighting and other effects really made for some beautiful scenery at times. And aside from your controls being a little wobbly during camera transitions, the camera cuts still made even a simple walk across town have a nice cinematic style. One of the characters had a few neat first-person segments that looked nice and were refreshing breaks to the game's cinematography as well. I also really liked when you could identify brands and sometimes even iconic Easter eggs despite the simplified art style as I progressed through the game. Overall, I liked it, since I went back to get achievements and ended up scoring all 1,000 points. It helped me see more of the details and the foreshadowing I might have missed the first time through, and some of the flaws and shortcuts along the way as well. Still, if you like adventure games, walking sims, or just like TV shows and want something reminiscent but with some level of participation, you should check it out. It really made me think more about how how some things I might have docked this game for a few points in the past didn't really affect my enjoyment of the story, and with so many options for what to play these days, not every game has to have certain things to be enjoyable for what it is.